What's going on, everybody? Justin here, and in this video we're going to be doing my May book haul. And during the course of the month of May, I picked up, I believe, 14 books. And the reason I'm not going to know that much about a lot of the books during this book haul is I think 8 or 9 of the books or something like that I got at a library sale type thing. And obviously at those kind of like library sales, they're sort of just getting rid of books and, you know, selling them for next to nothing. So when I went to that one, I'll just pick up anything that looks halfway like something I might ever read. So there's definitely a few of them that I don't really know much about, but I picked them up anyways. But yeah, let's just go ahead and get started with a bunch of those library sale books. All right, so first up, we have Dead Wake, and this is actually one I do know a little bit about, by Erik Larson. He's a pretty famous, popular history nonfiction author right now. Dead Wake is dealing with the sinking of the Lusitania, which was a passenger vessel across the Atlantic seas during the course of World War I, which was sunk by some German U-boats. And obviously this book is going to be dealing with sort of that whole incident, though definitely the Lusitania was not as benign as it sounded. There was obviously a lot of outrage at the time, but it was, like, I think, archaeologically proven that the Lusitania did have kind of like contrabanded weapons and stuff, making it like a legitimate like war target and everything. But anyway, so there's Dead Wake by Erik Larson. Okay, next up we have this random biography of Henry Knox, Visionary General of the American Revolution by Mark Poles. Never heard of the book before. Obviously I've heard like Henry Knox and stuff, but I don't really know too much about him. I've looked into Revolutionary War stuff very little in my time. So, but yeah, I just saw it and I was like, you know, that's actually kind of a cool, I guess, a cool topic for a biography. All that I really know about Henry Knox was he was sort of like the artillery sort of commander during the American Revolution. But I think he started off his career as like a book clerk, and when the you know, the American forces were kind of like building up, no one really, there wasn't many people with artillery experience, and he's like, yeah, I've read a bunch of like artillery manuals or something like in the bookstore, something like crazy like that, and I think that's sort of how he got started in that field. So yeah, I just thought it'd be kind of a cool little biography to kind of branch out a little bit more into American Revolution stuff. Alright, next up we have Dad is Fat by Jim Gaffigan, and this is obviously based on title, and if you know the author, if you've seen him before, just a stand-up comedian, that sort of thing. Don't know anything about the book. I think one of my relatives read this and said it was pretty funny, but basically that's all I know about it. But being a dad now, I just like, you know, why can't I just pick up a book called Dad is Fat and just, you know, see if I enjoy it, I guess. I'm thinking it's going to be a pretty quick, light read since it's like a pure comedy book, and we'll just see how that goes. Alright, next up we have The Boys in the Boat, 9 Americans and Their Epic Quest for Gold at the 1936 Berlin Olympics, by Daniel Brown. I've seen this book floating around before. This is definitely not something I would normally read. I hardly ever read anything sports-ish related, and this is obviously kind of creeping up on the kind of the World War II era, obviously dealing with like the Nazi Olympics and stuff in 1936. But I have heard that it is a pretty critically acclaimed, like, well-written book, and a few people that I follow on Twitter and that sort of thing, I've seen refer to this book last year at some point. So I was like, you know, it was like $1 or something. I might as well try and see what it's all about. I'm not sure actually why the library is getting rid of it, because it's got to be a pretty new-ish book. I think 2016 or something. I want to say so. No, I guess 2013, but still, wasn't quite sure, yeah, why that one was getting rid of, but, oh well, win for me, I suppose. Next up, we have Dewey the Library Cat, Small Town Library Cat Who Touched the World by Vicky Myron. I have absolutely no idea anything about it, but it's a book about a cat named Dewey. Apparently that was a library cat, and having worked in, like, animal hospital and stuff, just sounded like something, you know, I might kind of like reading about, so that's pretty much why I picked it up. I have absolutely no idea. After looking up a little bit when I got home, there was like sequels and stuff, and everything. So apparently it was like a popular phenomenon for a little while. And one more, actually, well, one more, and then like a series. I guess we have. It's missing the dust jacket, but it's Settled in the Wild by. I'm not sure who it's by. Susan Shetterly. Actually, do know a little bit more about this book. It's sort of a memoir, kind of like journal type book, dealing with sort of the author's nature observations. But what's interesting is towards the she lives on like towards the coast on down East Maine. Even though that's pretty far away from where I live, but it's still like in the same state. So it is kind of a cool deal. It's just sort of dealing with kind of the clash of city life and like rural life, stuff like that. So it just sounded kind of interesting. So that's why I picked up that one, even though it didn't have the dust jacket. And then lastly, picked up 4 books by the same author, and it's Stephen Donaldson's Thomas Covenant books. And actually, it's just the first book from the first trilogy, and then the complete second trilogy. The reason I picked him up is I heard he's kind of like a pretty big figure in kind of the classic era of fantasy in like the 70s and 80s and stuff, I think. But I guess it's kind of like, I don't know, I guess it's like epic fantasy, but a little bit more morally gray for that time period, which I thought was kind of cool. And the main character, I guess, is like a leper and everything, which sounded like a really cool concept. The only problem was, after looking at some of the books, this is the first book, Lord Farrell's Bane, of the first series. When I'm looking at some of these covers, though, I'm not seeing like morally gray like leper hero. I guess it's just not like screaming out to me. So, like, when I was staring at them, I'm like, I recognize Thomas Covenant and Stephen Donaldson, but yeah, I don't really know anything about it. But I texted Tim. He said, yeah, they're pretty good. So I picked them up based on his sort of affirmation that yeah, they don't suck. So that's why I ended up picking those up. Plus, the second trilogy is obviously a nice like matching set, so it makes it easy for like a collector if I end up like really liking the series. All right, those were all the library books that I picked up at that library sale. That leaves 4 other books. Okay, we'll go with the first one. As man, I'm just doing terrible. Like, I'm just having a terrible rough time with this video for some reason. I'm even wearing a gray shirt. If you guys didn't like notice, you must have noticed. It's not even black. But anyways, I'm like moving all over the place. The first one here, we got Nightmare Arcanus by Shelby Stovall. This is actually sent to me by the publisher. What was interesting to me is this author had also written like a World War I fantasy, which just like pretty much automatically made me like say, yeah, I think I'll just like give it a try. Just because if you're willing to write World War I fantasy, it like earns you a couple extra points in my book. But this book is also a flintlock fantasy. I think dealing with heavy nautical, like pirate sort of style themes. And I'm pretty much a sucker for anything flintlock fantasy, which is why I said, yeah, sure, send me the flintlock fantasy, I suppose. But other than that, I think I guess just from like the little blurb, you can like bond with certain creatures, like spirit animals type thing. Not exactly sure, but flintlock fantasy is gonna have some like magical elements and stuff. So we will see when I get to it. All right, next up we have The Creative Spark: How Imagination Made Humans Exceptional. It's by Agustin Fuentes. This just looked like a really interesting nonfiction book when I saw it. I don't really know too much about it. I must obviously be dealing sort of the psychology and philosophy of the creative mind, imagination, that sort of things that humans and probably like other primates and stuff have. Obviously dealing with like the coverage stuff, sort of with tool making and everything. So I hope there's sort of some like archaeological stuff kind of like hidden underneath too. I hope it's not just like psychology stuff, because I've had not great luck dealing with those kind of books. To be honest, I just haven't found anything that's really stood out and just been like highly enjoyable from what I've read. But like I said, I hope that this one is kind of dealing more with like kind of the anthropological aspect of it. Like I said, with some archaeology research and everything. I think it might be kind of cool. Just seeing like the different like kind of jumps in technology and stuff over time throughout the human species and stuff. I think it just might be kind of cool. Next up, we have The Infernal Battalion by Django Wexler, which is the 5th book in the Shadow Campaigns, and it's also the last one here. I finished the first 4 books so far, which means this will be like the longest series I've ever finished if I actually get to it, which I'm really hoping I do. Just the series has picked up really well. Like I said, the first book was great. Second book was kind of middle of the road, but then books 3 and 4 definitely picked up. And the end of the book 4 has set up like kind of the climax and the end of the series to be really, really cool. I'm really hoping. But anyways, the series is a Flintlock fantasy series with sort of magical elements being sort of like having demons being able to live inside people sometimes in certain scenarios, stuff like that. But you just got really cool characters, different points of view going on. The main focus being Winter Iron-Glass, who is a female soldier who disguises herself as a male for years to serve in her nation's army and stuff. So yeah, it's just really cool, highly enjoyable. Definitely check it out if you like Flintlock Fantasy. And lastly, for the last book of the month, is The Great Hunt by Robert Jordan, the 2nd book in the Wheel of Time. I finished Eye of the World like summer of last year, and like, you know, it's been like a whole year. I probably should read the next one, though I'm kind of looking forward to this one a little bit, because it's sort of, from kind of what I've been able to gather, is like Great Hunt is usually considered like one of the best books in the series, so hopefully this means I'll keep enjoying the series before it kind of goes off the rails, which I know it will at some point. But, you know, I don't know. It's just like one of those things I feel like I should read. And like I said, I did enjoy Eye of the World, and if this one's a little bit better, obviously I'll like this one even more. So that's why I ended up picking up The Great Hunt. So those were the books I picked up in the month of May. Tell me what you guys think about any of the authors or any of the books. If you've read them, just tell me what you think. And if you remember what your favorite book that you picked up in the month of May is, leave that in the comment down below as well. Be glad to see what you guys are buying as well. But whatever you guys end up reading, just always remember, read victoriously.